So I've recently stumbled onto some stuff that's just been mind-blowing for me. It's been new research around moods, cravings, emotions, energy, like the energy of your body, that I've been seeking to understand for a long time. Actually, most of my life, I've been seeking to figure out why I had these sensitivities that I had and this low energy that I had. And um, recently, in the last 6 to 8 months, bumped into this new research around brain chemistry, neurotransmitters, and connection to your moods, emotions, even your temperament, like your normal patterns of being or behavior. And this is a topic that most doctors just aren't aware of yet. There's not a lot of money in it. It's not a pharmaceutical product where they make a lot of money. It's fairly inexpensive. You can buy it at normal stores. So there's not the money there to promote it. So I'm promoting it because it's changed my life so incredibly. The whole kind of short-term journey or recent journey started. I was traveling in New Zealand about a year ago, not quite, and I hit again this space of being exhausted. And I was just like trashed. I had no energy. I couldn't function. And I had had this multiple times before to varying degrees in different times in my life. And it mysteriously comes in and then it mysteriously goes away. And I've explored with all different kinds of medical things for why that could be occurring, and nothing ever panned out, nothing ever made sense, but eventually it kind of shifted on its own. And this time I was just trashed, and I was in these just bizarre emotions. I was frustrated and angry, and like here my life was shut down. I had to pretty much stop my business. I couldn't see clients anymore. My capacity to teach and do the programs that I love to do, I just couldn't do anymore. It just absolutely shut me down. And it was, I was angry and frustrated, and just all this random crap, just random weird emotions constantly surfacing throughout my day. And it wasn't new, but it was so intense and it was so all-encompassing that I hit a wall, and I'm like, this is going to fucking change. I'm done with this. Somehow I need to find a new solution to this. And I actually relocated here to Thailand and started to explore with everything that I could think to do. I started to engage the medical system. I'd see specialist doctors, blood tests and more blood tests, and checking for thyroid and checking for hormone imbalances and checking for just this whole list of things that we did rundowns and diagnostics on. Did allergy checking, and everything came back a little out of balance, but nothing to indicate there was a problem. And it's the same I've always had. And you get this frustration. It's like, I realize my whole life I've been looking for, why don't I have the kind of energy, and why do I have these weird emotions and weird sensitivities? And other people don't have those. Other people seem to be able to function just fine, and I don't. And the more, I've learned how to clear a lot of the stuff by energetic clearing, but then I'm some days just constantly clearing. And I kept getting the sense there's something wrong with body. Something is not right, but the doctors couldn't figure it out. And so I determined that I'm going to figure this out. And I kept asking questions, and I kept exploring and researching and digging. And the first place that I landed is in a new field called nootropics, which is around your optimizing your brain functioning, because my thinking had become cloudy, brain fog. I had difficulty processing thoughts. I kept losing things. I kept forgetting things. Car keys, I'd leave my ATM card in the ATM, walk away, just like stupid garbage that just kept happening in my life over and over again. And I couldn't seem to change it. And so I started exploring with nootropics and realized that, well, my brain was not getting the food it needed. And that led me to the topic of amino acids. And I've tripped into the work of amino acid pioneers, Julia Ross, Eric Braverman, Mark Hyman, and they were all talking about seeing patients, and some of them were running extensive blood tests and diagnosis around brain chemistry, which is kind of ineffective in some ways, but they had to start somewhere. And they began to develop these patterns of finding that there are certain emotions and there are certain cravings that were related to certain brain chemistry out of balances, and that all you have to do is provide amino acids in the correct amount, and it's just like one amino acid for this and one for that, not just dump amino acids on it. And all of a sudden, the emotions would straighten out. People would get happier again. People's energy levels started to get normal again. People's brain function started to work again. Like lists of symptoms would just absolutely, completely go away. And those lists of symptoms I gave to you in an online quiz. So I'm hoping that you had a chance to go online and look at that symptom quiz that you took that had 5 different sections. All of those items that were listed on that quiz are actually symptoms that can be either completely eliminated or dramatically reduced just by taking a or 1 or 2 specific amino acids in that category. Like, it just absolutely makes it go away. It just totally changes it, and it can do it in as fast as 10 minutes. So it's like dramatic, revolutionary, and you're like, why haven't I heard about this? Well, there's not a lot of money in it. They're cheap. It's just cheap. It's not a pharmaceutical. And it's tricky still. The people who've been playing with it haven't quite figured out the dosing, but I figured it out. Woohoo! So I want to share. I want to share this with you. I want you to be able to be successful, because where I ended up going is I just started taking amino acids, and after a month and a half, 2 months, well, actually it happened immediately, but my life just started to change. All of a sudden I had enough energy, where my whole life I've had low energy, couldn't even think about exercising. All of a sudden I'm going to the gym 3 days a week. I'm working out. I'm energized and I'm loving it. I eliminated cravings, like just gone. And if I do have one, I know exactly how to figure out what is craving in my chemistry, and I can just take an amino acid and boop, craving's gone. Don't need to eat that food. And so I've lost like 15 kilos, and I'm feeling better and healthier and more energized than I've probably ever felt my entire life. And I'm in my 50s now. So like, as I've gotten older, it's just become more important because it seems to have gotten worse, but not anymore. Turn that corner. And my invitation is to support other people now in getting this to work for you. It makes such a dramatic difference in my life and the people who have applied this, that I want to get y'all involved and see what can we change in your life. So I want to start by asking you, and this will be a place where you'll have to unmute to answer, but what emotions or moods are you seeking to change? Like, when you looked at that list of all those different things, which ones did you check and go, yeah, like that screwy thing about the depression or the anxiety, or what emotions or moods are you seeking to change personally? And who wants to share?
Hi, Jaden.
Hi.
Jaden, I am looking at changing this feeling of instability in my mind. I mean, what's happening is it's all over the place. One day it's happy, one day it's depressed, and then it's cloggy and very unfocused. I'm looking at changing that. And body-wise, I'm looking at changing the unexplained pain, because I've been having unexplained pain from my childhood. It's just pain, there's no reason to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And all of those things are very correctable. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? What are you looking to change? Everybody shy? Okay. Well, I'll let you be shy. Um, so what's fascinating about this mood stuff and about the emotional component that's going on here is when they started to look at the research, as they have now worked with hundreds, thousands of patients, they've noticed that there's these big patterns. And the patterns are that when a person has plenty of dopamine, so there's 5 main categories that we're going to look at. There are 20 plus amino acids, and there are 10, depending on who research you talk to, there are 4 to 10 major areas, but we're going to look at 5 of those that seem to affect emotionality and cravings the most. And those are the 5 that I've selected for this group. So the first one is dopamine, which won't mean anything to you initially, but look at the symptoms. When you've got plenty of dopamine, you feel energized, upbeat, alert, focused, and probably more extroverted, because when you don't have a lot of energy, you kind of go inside. When you don't have it, they found from the collection of patients that they felt depressed, bored, lethargic, funky, low in motivation, low drive, difficulty focusing, concentrating. You run out of energy. Hands or feet were cold. It's the weirdest thing. It's like I could be in the middle of summer and my fingers and hands are cold. It's like, what is that? And cravings for stimulants or sweet stuff, sugar. Oh, I need sugar. I know that one. If they found that people who had plenty of serotonin felt naturally positive, confident, flexible, easygoing, and were more easy being social. When you don't, you've got kind of the opposite of that. You don't want to be social. There's a negative, cynical, pessimistic, worried, anxiousness thing that goes on and off, but pretty consistently. You're totally not confident. You don't have self-confidence because like you don't feel good about yourself, and it's just a chemical imbalance. Irritable, patient, shy, not enjoying friendships, relationships, having strong PMS, fibromyalgia, TMJ, migraine, irritable bowel syndrome, asthma. Like it heightens other issues that you have going on. It just exaggerates those issues. Difficulties with sleeping, having anxiety attacks, panic attacks, which I used to have those are really fun. And then another set of cravings for that. They found people who had plenty of GABA felt very relaxed, stress-free, content, calm. People who had low GABA felt constantly overworked, whether they were or not. Like when my GABA is low, I could have nothing to do and I still feel stressed out, like for no reason at all. Trouble relaxing, feeling stiff, uptight, overwhelmed, shaky, weak. When you eat a lot to like kind of settle things, very sensitive, and alcohol, food, tobacco, and certain drugs to relax. Like you keep taking things to try to relax, plenty of acetylcholine. This is mostly brain function here. You feel mentally energized, focused, feeling good, having it all together, responsive. And again, you're more social. Like it's just more natural to be social. When you don't have enough acetylcholine, poor focus, poor concentration, difficulty remembering names, faces, directions. It's just weird. It's like it just doesn't work correctly. Misplacing keys, wallet, glasses frequently. Anybody do that one? That was normal. Difficulty finding the right words, slow thinking, confused, difficulty putting thoughts together, despair, lack of joy, fatigue that worsens with exhaustion, chronic inflammation in the body is another pattern. And then desiring fatty or creamy foods like rich desserts, cheesecake. Oh, cheesecake! All that kind of stuff is your body's way of trying to balance out acetylcholine. Plenty of endorphins. You feel comfortable, pleasurable, feeling good. Like you just naturally feel good. When you don't have enough, overly sensitive to emotional or physical pain. So if you're one of those people who's just sensitive to everything, and I was that. It's simply they found just not enough endorphins. You get that endorphin level back up, and all of a sudden you're not sensitive to stuff anymore. Like this was so dramatic. and this is Eric Braverman, and this blew my world open when I saw the depth of this. He went into, out of hundreds of patients that he took through lab tests, and he was fascinated by personality. He would give them personality tests, and he found that pretty consistently, if you were low on dopamine, you were introverted. That was just kind of normal. If you were high on dopamine, you were almost forced to be extroverted. If you had balanced dopamine, then you could be introverted or extroverted. You had choice there. When your serotonin was low, you were like a brainy thinking person. You weren't a feeling in your body, emotional person. You were just thinking. People who had high serotonin were very feely people, but didn't like to think or make sense of things. They just like to feel things. When they had balanced serotonin, they could be in either state. GABA, if they had low GABA, they were actually very adaptable people. They were very flexible people, mostly because they had to be. They had high GABA. They were very structured people. They were very methodical, and they were very organized people. If you're balanced, you could be in the middle of those. Again, acetylcholine. People who had low acetylcholine were realists. They were like, here with the nitty gritty, life sucks and it's all just hard and it's miserable and there's no way around it. People who were high acetylcholine were the dreamers and the creative people. And they were the people who saw new possibilities and potentials for change and other things. People who were balanced could be in both of those categories. So it actually affected your temperament, like your natural patterns. And he even went so far, once he found that, he was like, whoa, this is amazing. He found that people who were naturally loners had low dopamine, like that was kind of the primary cause. Painfully shy, low GABA. People who just were nurturing, they had to nurture other people but never seemed to nurture themselves, were traditionally low dopamine. Drama queens, they have to express themselves, low GABA but high dopamine. So they found, self-absorbed people, the people who are rule breakers, the rebels, the people who are always fighting, the perfectionists, they always have to get things right, the procrastinators, like all these different patterns were simply connected to, or were totally connected to your brain chemistry imbalances. When your brain chemistry was balanced and was normal, all of a sudden you weren't stuck in these patterns anymore. You could actually be anything. Like you could be those or you could not be those. Like you for the first time had choice, where before you may not have had choice before. And for me, that was the huge thing. Like most of my life, I didn't have choice. I was in these spaces where my capacity to function was so reduced, and I was so sensitive, and I was so emotional. And then the other thing about it, and another focus for this call, and I want to ask you about your cravings now, because what they found is that your cravings are actually your body's way of trying to use the food that it gets to balance your neurochemical system. So trying to balance all the stuff that we've been looking at, your body's actually been trying to do that, but it's been doing it by grabbing certain foods. Like for me, when I was low on energy, sugar would be the first thing I go to. Sugar or caffeine. We just, bam, like no thought involved. I just need to go to sugar. And I always had sugar handy. Like I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd go in the car for a short trip. I'd have a bottle of some sugary drink with me everywhere, because like my body seemed to need that in order to keep my energy levels more or less. They were always low, but to keep them higher in the low range. My other cravings were fatty, greasy, like I just crave like fried chicken or cheesecake or anything creamy, yogurt. Like I just have these weird cravings for yogurt and cheese and ice cream, and I didn't understand that. And when I was attempting to lose weight, it was just not possible. And then there were certain times where I'd have difficulty with calming down. At the end of the day, I'd be wanting to calm down, and my system would just be kind of, and I couldn't find anything that would actually calm me down. There were some foods that I'd crave. For me, I'd be craving like marijuana. It was one of the few things that I found that actually would calm my system down. Some people crave alcohol and other things, but like alcohol never, I don't know, my body didn't like that. So like, what are the cravings that you have? Actually, let me show you the list of cravings that you can see what the patterns are here. So as they started to look at the patterns or the symptoms that people had, they started to notice that people who had low dopamine in their brain chemistry were craving caffeine, stimulants, or sweets, serotonin, sweets, starches, wine, marijuana. They're looking for things to feel good. Serotonin is about feeling good. GABA is about calming down. So if you don't have enough relaxing, if you don't have enough GABA, you're going to be craving anything that's going to calm you down. Alcohol, food, like overeating to calm down. A lot of people do that. Tobacco can calm some people down, certain drugs to relax. Not enough acetylcholine. So if you're trying to function and you're trying to think and maybe do work or get things accomplished, you might find yourself craving fatty or creamy foods. Dairy products for me are greasy, like cheeseburgers or deep fried things, French fries, things like that. Not enough endorphins. Basically, it's sweet pastries and cookies and bread, which have a lot of sugar and flour, which actually work together to create it's a comforting kind of thing. So there's like comfort foods, pizza, cheese, ice cream, helps kind of simulate endorphins. Ironically, it doesn't actually resolve endorphins at all, but it makes you feel a little better for a little while, and then until you start to feel guilty about it. But I wanted to ask you, so what is it that you find that you're craving? Like, what comes up for you? What are your cravings that you would like to change?
Jaden, I have the cravings you've mentioned, and sometimes I also have cravings for salty or spicy, tangy food, or with a little bit of sourness kind of food.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sometimes I have a craving for water. Like, I'm feeling so thirsty, I have to just drink water.
Wow. Okay. That's a new one for me. That sounds like it's something else. But the spicy thing, actually, do you know, spicy is the only thing that actually resolves endorphins. Because spicy, when you eat something spicy, your body's like, oh my gosh, we're burning up, we're on fire. So it starts to release endorphins, and it kind of makes you feel better. So that actually is the only solution that actually authentically releases endorphins. So that one works. And that one's actually not necessarily unhealthy most times. But yeah, no, thank you for that. Thank you. Yes. And
Thank you.
most of those, except for the water one, and that could be a simple dehydration too. No, there's something else going on in there. I would have to ask more questions with you about that, which I don't have time to do today. But most of those symptoms are all completely like you just start to balance out your brain chemistry, and it's the bizarrest thing. Those cravings just go away. Like I used to always, like I couldn't drink water, plain water, like body would just be like, oh no, I have to have something sugary. And it wasn't until I started to balance my main amino acids that all of a sudden I go to drink something sugary like soda or something, the body's like, ooh, no, I don't want that. Like, take it away. It's like, what? It's the craziest thing. Like, I just don't crave things anymore. It's just not there. And if it does come up, there's a way that I can teach you in this body of work that I do, how to figure out which of the 5 categories is actually craving it. And the more you do the amino acids, you just get to learn. Like I now know that it's now 9 a.m. where I'm at. By about 11 o'clock, my body is going to start craving some kind of sweet thing, and it'll be for serotonin. And all I have to do is take my tryptophan amino acid, and it's just gone. It's just gone. It's not about hunger. It's just something's out of balance, and my body's seeking to find a way to balance that. And once you balance it, the cravings are just gone. And all of a sudden, handling diet or handling weight issues is no longer a struggle. It's no longer work because it's just gone. So anybody else have cravings that you're looking to eliminate? What cravings would you love to get rid of? No, I guess everybody's gonna be quiet. All these people and nobody wants to talk. Okay, cool. So let me go back and let me go deeper into like what can we do with this? Like how does this work? Well, the thing that I want to kind of highlight is that this is all really new stuff. And what that means is that a lot of people don't know about it. Chances are your doctor or most doctors have never ever heard it. They've heard of amino acids probably, but they've never heard of using amino acids to resolve anything. They're just things that are in your food. Like amino acids are protein. That's it. It's just a protein that they're the little components that are in that make up proteins. So your body, when you ingest proteins, will take the amino acids out. What we're doing is we're doing what's called targeted amino acid. So we're selectively taking the exact amino acid that your body is low in, which we can tell by your symptoms. So if you have high symptoms in one area, we just know, okay, that is, we just give that particular amino acid, and all of a sudden, all of those symptoms go away because that area is now balanced. So your neurochemistry can now work naturally, like everything is connected and everything works properly. When there's not enough of that, things just don't work properly. But a lot of doctors even who are working in this, even some of the pioneers in it, still haven't figured out the intricacies of dosing, which is very tricky. And I want to show you like just a brief glimpse of that. Like for me, tyrosine, or L-tyrosine as it's called, my optimal dose for my body is 80 milligrams. And because I'm sensitive, and a lot of people who are aware and conscious are more sensitive, they don't need as much drugs or medication, or in this case, amino acids. So I take 80 milligrams and that's perfect. If I take 100 milligrams, that's just an extra 20 milligrams, I start to get sleepy. Yet the industry packages tyrosine in 500 milligrams. So what's happening is people who are starting this process, they're going, oh wow, this is exciting, and they buy tyrosine and they take a pill, and they feel more tired than they did before they took it, and they're like, oh man, this is not right. Like this doesn't work. Like the industry hasn't figured out all the details, and there's a lot of variability. For some people, 500 milligrams works. So those people will be successful with amino acid therapy simply because somebody at the packaging plant decided they were going to put 500 milligrams in this bottle. And so that's the dose that people use. Okay, that's good. Now, this one blew my mind. There's also products that you can take that are packages of many amino acids all together. So here's a product that will remain nameless, but look at all the amino acids it has in there, and they may not mean anything to you, and that's fine. Look at the one tyrosine. In one scoop of this, and they recommend that you take one scoop of this, which is 25 grams total powder, and dump it in a smoothie or make it in a shake or whatever you're going to do with it, has 1,165 milligrams of tyrosine, and mine is 80. Whoa. And then look at the huge proportions of all the rest of those. Okay, so these people, I would say, have no clue. What's interesting is there's a thing that amino acids have to get digested partially. They enter the bloodstream, not partially, they get digested, they get broken up, even your supplements, and then they cross something called the blood-brain barrier to get into your brain. But that's like a little doorway to get into the blood-brain barrier. So what happens is only a small amount of stuff can get through at one time. So what these people are doing is, the reason this doesn't like absolutely flatten anybody is all of this stuff hits your blood-brain barrier at the same time, and all of a sudden it just can't get through. So only a small amount of some of the things actually get through. So the bottom line is the amino acid stuff is a little tricky, but I've worked out those bugs, and I found a way to create a successful pattern no matter who you are and no matter how sensitive you are. In the past, sensitive people would not be successful at doing this kind of therapy simply because the dosing was too high. So I found a solution to that, mostly because I had to for myself. And I found something that's consistent and repeatable that I can teach other people that allows you to be successful with this. So here's kind of how, but we're not going to worry about that at the moment, and everything that you've kind of going, oh my gosh, this is way too much. And you can just kind of let all that go, because it's not. I'm going to make it very simple for you. You don't actually need to understand all of this stuff in order to get started. You just need to understand a little bit to get started, and then you build on your knowledge as you go along. So here's the main steps. The first thing you've already done, hopefully you've taken the quiz. And if you haven't taken the quiz, below this video, if you're watching a recording of it, there's a link to the quiz intro. Go take the quiz and find out which field is your highest level of symptoms. So what you want to do is look at the diagnostic or the printout that you got. So I emailed you right after you took that quiz, and I gave you a summary that said dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and acetylcholine, and endorphins, and it gave you a number, which was the number of symptoms that you have for each one of those categories. What you do is you're going to take the area that you have the most symptoms in, and you're going to work on that first. I want to say that the caveat to that is if you have dopamine as one of the higher ones, you want to work on that first. If you have low energy, then everything else is more difficult. Even if the other ones are a little bit worse, if you've got low energy, everything is harder. So start with dopamine first if you have low energy. But if your dopamine symptoms are, you don't have many dopamine symptoms, start with whatever's the highest first. Simple, start with highest first. Okay, that's all you got to remember. Then what you do is, and I've got a book that is here that has everything broken out for you, is let's say that you have endorphins is your highest thing. So you would go to this page, and it's going to show you there's two different amino acids that you can use. So in this case, you can use DL-phenylalanine, or you can use D-phenylalanine. And you'll pick one or the other, or you can order both and then try them and see which one your body likes better. Or even ask your body, do you prefer this one or do you prefer this one? Like however you want to do that. And then you're going to buy that, and you're going to test it and find out what dose is actually optimal for you. So there's I'm not going to go into the dosing of it because you don't necessarily need that information to get started with. What you need to get started with is to find out which area is your highest area of concern. If GABA is your highest area of concern, then you'll get L-theanine or a GABA blend. And my recommendation is actually for you to get L-theanine because it works really well. Bodies seem to really like L-theanine. If you have acetylcholine, so basically you have got a lot of mind things going on, slow mental thinking, difficulty remembering things, you're going to want to start by getting either alpha GPC or CDB choline. They both do the same thing. So it's just which one of these do you prefer, or just whichever one you can find. There's another one called choline bitrate. I don't recommend it necessarily because it requires a bit more of it to make it work. But if that's all you can find in your local health food store, get that. So, and there are some also more advanced ones that I recommend, but you want to start somewhere, and the place to start is with the top. You want to just pick whichever the top one. So let's say that and by the way, I sent you all this information by email too. So you don't even need this booklet to get started, but this booklet gives you the details of how to like put it all together and make it all happen. So if you're working in serotonin, if serotonin is your biggest one, then tryptophan or 5-HTP, and my recommendation is tryptophan, unless you've already worked with 5-HTP and you know you like it, or if you just have this intuition of like, wow, 5-HTP feels really good, then get it, or try both, however you want to do it. Both of these are generally readily accessible at most natural health food stores. And you're just taking one of those is actually going to totally clean up serotonin. Serotonin is actually a very simple one to do, so which is really nice. If dopamine is your biggest one, L-tyrosine is your baby. You're going to get to love L-tyrosine. Or phenylalanine is a secondary one. Uridine is also another good one in there, but I don't want to complicate it. Start with tyrosine. Try tyrosine, and then you'll add other things to it if you want a more fuller or a more expansive energy. But you want to start with tyrosine. Most people start with that. I'd say only if your body doesn't like tyrosine, you try it and you're like, some people it's rare, but some people don't like it, then go to L-phenylalanine. Okay, so the coolest part about all of this stuff with using amino acids is that it not only fixes things in the short term, it actually rebalances your body in the long term. So what actually is going to happen is, and it varies for people, whether it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Usually it's 3 to 8 months for most people based on people who've done this before, is your system will rebalance itself. So what happens is your body will actually recognize, oh, that's the level that you want GABA to be at, and that you want serotonin to be at, and that you want all these different brain chemistries to be at, and your body will start to produce naturally at those levels over time. So you're actually going to reach a place where you're actually going to not take amino acids anymore, because your body's going to take over producing it all on its own, assuming you continue to eat enough protein in your diet, and most people do. But this rebalances your neurochemistry to the point where your body is now going to handle the whole thing by itself. You'll no longer need to take amino acids because your body will handle it. It'll automatically keep all of your transmitters at the level that you've now designated by showing it day after day by taking these amino acids. Body, this is the level we want this to stay at. Keep it at this level. And your body will learn to keep it at that level. And after a certain period of time, you won't need to take amino acids at all, because it's all good. Your body's figured it out. So that's the coolest part for me. Not only does this like fix it and make everything like feel better in the short term, in the long term, you won't need to take this anymore. It's just a temporary way of retraining your body to what the optimal levels are for you. And you're actually reprogramming your body to function optimally again, which is, yeah, that was the thing that was the main icing for me. It's like, you can actually change your body. You can actually optimize your body. You can actually correct the things that are out of balance for you and make it function optimally again. So basically, that's it. You're just going to grab your first amino acid. I give you a process in this program of how to find your ideal dosage. And let me talk to you about dosage, because the interesting thing about dosing, and this is actually the book that gives you all the information. Let me find the section on dosing. I think it's here. Yep, there we go. Is the ironic thing about about amino acids, and this is what messes with people the most. I'm giving you a big clue here. The biggest failure path for people is they don't realize that with amino acids, targeted amino acids, where you're just taking one specific amino acid, if you take too much of it, it's gonna give you the same symptoms that you're trying to get rid of. So dopamine, if you're taking tyrosine to become energized, then if you take too much of it, it's going to make you sleepy or drowsy. It's going to have the opposite effect. And the more too much of it that you take, the stronger that effect is. So this is what happens with, if people don't have the dosing right, then what happens is you'll get this and you'll go, wow, this is going to be so cool. This is going to change my life. And you take this big pill and it's way too much and you feel worse than you feel sleepier than you did before. And you're like, okay, this is not going to work. And it's just the dosing. That's it. And just 20 milligrams too much will make you feel sleepy and drowsy. So it's a very small amount. For serotonin, an example, 5-HTP, or you can use the other one that I listed. If you take the correct dose, for me, these are my examples. If I take the correct dose of 5-HTP, I just feel easygoing. Like everything is just simple and easy, and it balances my neurotransmitter, and it's all good. If I take up 30 milligrams too much, which is 30 milligrams is a tiny amount, I become jittery or anxious. It's like, which is the symptoms that, like when I feel jittery or anxious, I know serotonin is out of balance and I need to take something for it. So it's like, it's weird. So if you take too much of any one thing, you're going to either have the same symptoms or make those symptoms worse. So in a way, it's kind of easy to remember, but it's a weird concept. L-theanine, if I take the correct amount, I'm relaxed. If I take too much of it, I feel sleepy and unmotivated, like I just don't want to function or do anything. Acetylcholine, alpha GPC, all of a sudden I feel clear-headed. Like, it's like, wow, okay, there's a clarity. If I take too much of it, I get head pressure. It's like, ugh. Okay. Endorphins, diphenylalanine, DPA for short. I couldn't fit the word. I feel comfort. Like, it's like, oh, yeah. But if I take too much, I start to feel stressed out and anxious, which is what the symptom of how I know I need to take it in the first place. So it's about the thing you need to walk away with here. You don't need to remember any of those details. Just if you take too much, it's going to make your symptoms worse. So it's about getting the right amount. So that's where a scale is involved. And it's because the industry, this is so new, the industry hasn't caught up and figured out that we need to make bottles that have different doses in there so people can order what they're going to need. You're going to have to order whatever the one dose is that they have, and they usually come in one dose. That's it. They might come in 2 different doses. If you can get the smaller dose, you're generally better off. It's just easier, but whatever, it doesn't matter, because you're going to get a little scale, and I'm going to teach you how to use that scale, and they're actually really fun. And you're going to actually measure out the exact amount of powder that you need so that you always have a repeatable and accurate experience with your amino acid. And so that's my contribution to this process, is taking the people who have explored with amino acid therapy, the failure rate is actually kind of high, because people don't get the dosing right. So what I want to do is, and I can't do it here, and it's actually a little bit more in depth, is, so I've got this book here, I'll go to the front page, called End Cravings, Low Energy, Funky Moods, and Brain Fog by Feeding Your Brain What It Requires, which is simply the amino acids. And I give you all the information, all the background, and I keep it simple, and I only give you what you need to get started. In the appendix, there's as much detail as you want to get into. But I give you videos, and I give you support to actually, like, email me and go, okay, this isn't working right, what's going on? And so I can work with you to find out what's not right and get it working for you. So what this is about is, like, how can I support you at being successful changing this so that your cravings go away, your energy levels come back up to high, and the weird moods and weird emotions and depression and anxieties and just bizarre energetic things that go on in your reality actually just go away once your brain chemistry is balanced. And I'm going to give you the videos and the background and the training that you need in a very simple, very, like, I've got a video that shows you step by step and exactly how you use the scale and exactly how you weigh things out and like how it all works. And then you can also have contact with me by email so that when something is not the way you'd expect it, you can go, hey, Jaden, and you're talking to me, not my secretary or anybody else, talking to me, what's going on? And I can troubleshoot with you and get it so that you're going to be successful with the amino acids. So that's just kind of my program in a nutshell. And amino acids, it's so changed my life. And anybody that I've worked with who has actually followed the recommendations on dosing, there's some people who take this. So if you're a logical and organized person and you're able to read research and figure things out on your own, you don't need my book and you don't need to email me. You could just contact, you just look up targeted amino acid therapy and you can find books that will show you things, but they don't have all the answers. But it's actually it's not difficult to figure out if you're naturally a research-oriented person, which I am. But if you're not, you might want to get this book, and I'll give you a link to that below this video or after this call. I'll send you a link to it where I'll walk you through it step by step. Okay, now do this, now get these products. I'll actually give you links to the recommended products. Actually, whether you buy the product or not, I'll give you links to the recommended products. Come on, where's that section? It's colored. There we go. So you get links for if you want to buy it on Amazon or if you want to get it at iHerb, or if you just want to see what it is that I'm recommending and then you get it to your local store. Doesn't matter where you get it, but so I give you links for exactly what to get and I tell you, hey, get this. So I want to make it as simple and as uncomplicated as I possibly can. And so that's what I've done. I've taken the complexities out of it and made it so that you don't need to be a research freak in order to figure all this stuff out. So I want to turn it over back to you and see what questions that you might have about any and all of this. So anybody have questions?
Jason, you had mentioned that we can reduce the quantity, right? Would you suggest we buy powders instead of capsules?
It's interesting. I've done some things by buying a thing of powder, but what I found is that actually I now prefer capsules a little bit more because there are some things that are like a half of a dose. And there are some things that are quarter of a dose. So if it's a half of a dose, I can take the pill, I can open it up, I can dump out half of it and measure it on my scale, and then close up the pill, and I've got half of it, and then I just take what I dumped onto my scale, load that into a capsule, and now I've got 2 doses. And so it's actually a little easier for those things that are a larger amount, depending on what your dosing is. Whereas if it's powder, you're always loading it into a capsule. So I'd say either way, I'd say what's more accessible to you. If it's easy to get just the thing of powder, then get just the thing of powder. If just the thing of capsules, there's a benefit to actually doing that too, yeah. Does it?
Do we dissolve into water and have it? And how much time before a meal?
So you can dissolve it in water or you can just ingest it. Either way, however you want to do it, you can just, either way. You generally want it to be before a meal, at least 10 minutes before. So the trick with amino acids is if you're eating protein, and hopefully you are eating protein, or your body's not getting enough of what you need to naturally make it. If you're when this hits your stomach and then starts to be digested, it goes up into the brain, and only there's like a small passageway to get into your brain. Not passageway, but there's a limited brain barrier, and only so much can get in at one time. And so it's kind of like first come, first serve. So if you want the amino acid, which we do, to get there and not be interrupted by anything else, we take it before food, at least 10 minutes before food. This way, that has a chance to get digested, get in your system, get into your brain, and then you'll start to eat your food, and then the food can come in and do what the food does. So I usually take my amino acids before I eat, or you can take it like a couple hours after you eat. But if you take it with the food, then it's kind of, it gets complicated because it's competing with the food. It'll get there, but it may not be a full amount that reaches your brain.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Nope. Okay. I guess they did a good job. So, with that, I'll wrap up. If you do have questions, please email me. I'm happy to answer questions whether you buy the product or not. I will also send you a link to where you can get the products if you don't want to buy them through this, or you can go to my shop and you can get this ebook here, which gives you the book. It gives you email support with me. I want you to be successful. I've set up everything to simplify and allow you to be successful with this. I want this to work for you because it's so changed my life in so many really cool ways. Like things I've been struggling with for 30, 40 years are just gone, overnight gone. And I want you to have that same experience. So please let me help you.
Is this easily digestible, Jaden?
Yes. Yes. And it's very quick. And the side effects digestively are nil because your body is just used to amino acids. It knows exactly what to do with amino acids. The only side effects that you would have from taking amino acids would be taking too much of them, and then you get either the same symptoms you've always had, or it makes those symptoms a little bit worse. But now that you know that, and if you're doing them one at a time, that's my recommendation to you, is always do them one at a time. Like take your highest one, figure that one out first, and only do that one. Don't take any other thing. Just do that one thing. Figure out exactly what your dose is, how often during the day you take it, and in the book I'll explain how you do all that. And then once you know that and you figured out that first one and you feel really solid with that, take like at least a week with the one thing. Then you can look at, okay, what's my second highest list of symptom thing? And then work with that one and spend a week with the first one there and add the second one to it and explore that. And the more, as you do this, you start to recognize and become aware of how all this works. And you actually start to understand the connection between the weird emotions, and it just means you don't have enough amino acid, because it's like 5 or 10 minutes. You take this amino acid and the weird emotions are just gone and you start to feel good again. It's so cool. So you start to really get it fairly quickly. So it gets easy after a while, but in the beginning it's overwhelming because there's so many things. But take it step at a time. Do one thing at a time. Get that worked out. Get it comfortable. Then do your next neurotransmitter and get that worked out. And as you layer it in there, it all just falls into place and it becomes very simple. And email me if you have problems, because if there's a problem to be had, I've had it, and I know how to get out of it. So. Any other questions?
Maybe we'll try it and get back to you.
Cool. Yeah, get back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
cool.
right. Thank
Very good.
you.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, well then, thank you very much. I will send you more information, and I would love to see you be able to change and make all of those weird moods go away and actually to feel good again, which is finally, after 40 years of searching, what I've been able to do, and get into your natural energy and to make those cravings go away, and you can start losing weight or do whatever you want to do, or even putting on weight. I can show you how to do that. So it's like you really can fix a bulk of all those things that are on that list. You can improve or make completely go away. So I encourage you to explore with this and give it a try, because yeah, you can change things. Let's do this.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.